What's up guys, Chinzo here. I've been camping out of my truck bed for a few years now, and this summer I decided it was finally time to invest in a fresh, new setup. Rooftop tents have been on my radar for a while now, but as we all know, prices on these tents can be a bit over the top. But recently I found a tent that checked most of the boxes on my wish list and came in at less than $1,000. This is the TMBK3 from Overland Vehicle Systems. In this video we'll take a closer look at the price, specs, and the installation process. Then we'll get on the road and test it out at the campsite. So is this tent really an awesome value? Or is this just a prime example of, you get what you pay for? Let's find out. The TMBK3 goes for $999 on Amazon with free shipping, but frequently goes on sale for $899. If you choose to buy this tent, I'd recommend putting it in your Amazon cart and just waiting for the price to drop. If you've shopped around for rooftop tents lately, you know that finding one for less than $1,000 is not very common. Anytime I find a deal this nice, I approach it with caution and I spend a lot of time doing my research. Luckily, what I found was reassuring. Overland Vehicle Systems has been around for a while and has a pretty solid reputation in the camping and overlanding community. Tons of positive reviews on both Amazon and YouTube left me feeling confident with this purchase. This tent weighs in at 108 pounds and is rated as a 3-person tent, which means it'll fit 2 people comfortably. At this weight, I'm able to mount and remove this tent fairly easily with a bit of help from my wife. This is convenient for me because I take the tent down and store it in my garage between camping trips. Ultimately, I prioritized floor space and chose the TMBK3 for its spacious layout and its price tag. Speaking of space, when the tent is fully deployed, it's 94 inches long and over 56 inches wide, which is plenty of room for my wife and I think we've even got some space left over for the pup. Before we get on the road, let's get this tent unboxed and have a look at the installation process. Alright guys, so I'm just going to give you a quick look at what all comes in the box. You've got a shoe bag, you've got your ladder, the awning rods, you've got the cover over there. This is all going to come tucked inside the tent, as well as the hardware. You're going to have your mounting rails, and then you've just got a bunch of hardware over here. We've got mounting plates, we've got the ladder bracket, a couple of wrenches, and a bunch of washers, nuts, and bolts. Looking at the biggest bolts, I would say I probably am going to need to replace some of those because I don't think they're long enough to secure the mounting brackets onto my bed rack. The approach that I'm taking is basically just lining up the tent next to the truck so that I can kind of visualize how it would flip out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything secured and hopefully get this installed. But this should go pretty quick. I'm thinking about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, have this stuff done, and hopefully have this mounted on the bed rack soon. The mounting rails are now in place. I'm just gonna clear this off, flip it over, and then install that ladder on the other side. I've got it flipped over. Now I'm just gonna install the ladder brackets. It's gonna be pretty much the same concept. Run these bolts underneath through these holes, pop the bracket on here, and put the nuts on this side. Then I can go ahead and install the ladder right here. All right, so the setup of the hardware and the ladder is all complete. I'm just gonna throw the cover on it, and then tomorrow I'll get it mounted to the truck. To mount this to my bed rack, I did have to run to the hardware store for some longer 3-inch bolts. While I was there, I picked up new nuts and washers as well, and spent about $11. With everything in place, I think it's finally time to get on the road and test her out. What was supposed to be a simple shakedown run quickly turned into a severe weather test. In only our first weekend with this tent, we got to see how it performs in high wind and heavy rain in this salty and sandy environment. I set up the tent in a rush because we were expecting more rain, and I even missed a few key steps on my first setup. So here's a look at the proper setup process and a few tips. Just be aware, setup can require a bit of acrobatics as you maneuver around your truck bed, but that will depend on the height of your rack. The first step is removing the cover and extending the ladder. Then just pull and unfold to reveal your humble abode.
Oh, shit. Just like that?
But the fun's not over yet. Installing the awning rods is the most time-consuming part, but it's not that bad if you don't mind another round of acrobatics. Be mindful to run the rods through the tent canvas before placing them into the pre-drilled slots. That's one of the steps that I missed on my first setup. You'll also want to make sure all of the corner supports are secured in their respective sleeves. I also missed that the first time around. Total time for setup is 6 to 8 minutes, so it's not the quickest to deploy and definitely not the slowest, but it is less stressful than dealing with tent poles, and it's much easier to set up in high wind than my last tent. So let's climb in and see what the wife thinks.
I like it. Yeah. And I'm going to set all my books up.
You're going to make your own little library? What do you think of the view over here?
It's fantastic.
Nice.
You going to see it?
Yeah, for sure. It's safe to say this tent is wife approved, and if I'm being honest, I was pretty stoked as well. I love it. I think it's awesome. Plenty of cushion here.
You did good.
Thank you, thank you. It is the morning of day 2 here at camp. We got into camp kind of late last night, and we had just enough time to kind of set up camp and get prepared, because on the way down the beach we noticed that there was definitely a storm rolling in. I will say the tent held up very well last night. We stayed bone dry. It rained off and on quite a bit, and yeah, we had no issues. We slept very comfortably. We're gonna be here for 3 nights total, and it's looking like it's gonna be raining off and on. So we will definitely be testing this tent out in a high wind and some rain, and we will see how it holds up to these conditions. So we had another awesome night in the tent last night. The wind really picked up around 2 a.m. and I mean the wind was howling. It was pretty intense. Honestly, I was a little bit scared, only because it was just my second night in the tent. Obviously the tent is not going anywhere, it's not gonna blow over. And one benefit that I haven't really thought about was the fact that we're so high up, we really don't get any sand blowing in through our windows. One of our friends that's camping with us actually had sand blowing into his tent, so they had to make a few adjustments, but for us being so high up, having the sand blow into our tent is not really an issue. I did take a quick midday nap, probably about 2 o'clock. And the cross ventilation inside the tent is amazing, especially with a nice coastal breeze. And then the tent itself actually blocks out a lot of sunlight as well. It's not exactly blackout, but I didn't feel any heat of the sun coming into the tent. And like I said, that cross breeze was absolutely perfect. So it's a great place to take a nap. That's not something I usually do in any of my tents. But with this tent, I think naps are gonna be a regular thing because you're up off the ground, you get a better breeze. And like I said, it blocks out a lot of that light. So far, everything's going really great. One thing that I really enjoyed was just waking up, looking out the window, and having that amazing view this morning. One major benefit that I hadn't really considered before purchasing this tent is how awesome it is to reclaim the space in my truck bed. I've been camping in a truck bed tent for so long that I forgot how useful and valuable this space really is. If you've been camping with me for a while, you know that we love to cook on this channel, and I put a lot of effort into my camp kitchen setup. Having the full tailgate available to me opens up a lot of new possibilities, and I've really been enjoying using this space as a tailgating and picnic area. My new Set Power camp fridge has found a home here, and it really takes tailgating to the next level. I'm also currently in the process of piecing together some new gear to make my ultimate camp kitchen. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely be sure to stick around so you don't miss out on the next adventure. When it comes to downsides, the list is pretty small, but this tent does have a few quirks. This ladder is definitely a weak point if you ask me. I found it to be very sticky, and I don't think it will endure these beach trips long term. An upgrade to a telescopic ladder is probably the best option here. I mentioned earlier that I like to camp with my dog, however he weighs about 60 pounds, and I don't have a game plan for how I'm going to get him safely in and out of the tent. But I'm thinking an annex and a dog bed would probably be the next best option. While mounting this tent is not the most difficult task, I recognize that there are definitely tents out there that are much quicker and much easier. In fact, I'd strongly consider the 86-pound ultralight tent from Inspired Overland. If super quick setup and a really easy mounting process are your top priorities, then this may be a good option for you. But if floor space and headroom is your top priority, then a flip-out style tent is still a better option. Lastly, this is a soft top tent, so I would assume it to be less durable than a hard top option, but it's still too soon to tell. It's garage kept, and I don't mind a bit of maintenance, so that should help extend its lifespan. To wrap this up, I'll say that I've really enjoyed owning and using this tent so far, and I look forward to evolving my camping system around this new setup, so feel free to stick around and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next adventure. As always, thanks for watching, stay stoked, and I'll see you in the next one.